You know that feeling when you sit on your desk and you work for around 2 hours and you completely zone in and it felt like it was 10 minutes or possibly only 20 minutes? Well, that's flow state. It's when time feels like it passes faster because you're completely locked into a task and it feels like you can accomplish so much in so little time. Now, most people think this state can only be accessed by accident, but what if I told you there's a way that you could enter that state on demand? Well, there is. But there's a good reason why people never discover it. It's because they're stuck in what I call the productivity trap. The productivity trap is when people think the answer to being productive is by doing more tasks, working longer hours, and being productive. But that's exactly what prevents most people from entering flow state. In this video, I'm going to show you a simple rule that breaks you out of this trap. It stops you from staring at overwhelming task lists, wondering where to even start, eliminate the guilt of procrastination, and it'll give you complete confidence that you can accomplish your most important work in just 2 focused hours. And by the end of the video, you'll know exactly how to get a week's worth of work done in just 2 hours. And more importantly, you'll actually look forward to getting work done. But first, let me go over why having a productivity mindset is not going to serve you when it comes to getting work done and trying to move your business forward. So 2 years ago, I was working a 9 to 5 and I was making around $54,000 a year while helping my company make $399 million a year. And you can imagine, as a person like me, I hate making someone richer, spending all of my time and energy when I don't see any returns on my end. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to build up a business so I could eventually quit my job. So outside of my 9 to 5, I would sit down to work on my business and immediately open up this massive to-do list. And on my to-do list, I'd have create content, send emails, update website, send DMs, fix the landing page. The list would just keep on going and going. I would think, how will I ever find all the time to get all of these tasks done? And as you can imagine, looking at to-do lists with so much stuff to do, you're going to feel really overwhelmed and you're going to be confused which activity or which task should you start off with. Instead of me actually working, I'd spend 30 minutes just reorganizing my to-do list, maybe color coding tasks and figuring out which one should I start off with first. By the time I finally started working, I was already stressed and I would already dread the work because I would think, how can I ever get all these tasks done? I'd eventually jump from task to task. I'd possibly write 2 sentences of an email, then I'd hop onto a content that I'd working on, then I'd work on the landing page, then I'd work on something else. So it was not straightforward. It was just multitasking from task to task. I was constantly busy, but never actually completing or shipping anything meaningful. And I remember one day I worked for around 12 hours on a weekend because, you got a 9 to 5 job, you can't work on the weekdays. And I realized I hadn't completed a single needle moving task. Like I was working for 12 hours. It was all busy work, multitasking, hopping from task to task. And in that moment, I knew I was trapped in the productivity mindset where my goal was focused on getting X amount of tasks done. And if I didn't get X amount of tasks done, I would feel like a failure. And the to-do list would continuously grow and grow and nothing on the to-do list would get done. And I'll constantly feel like I'm not getting anything done. And that'll get me even more overwhelmed trying to multitask and get more tasks done. Now, this is a dangerous mindset of having this idea where I should have the expectation where I must get X amount of tasks done in X amount of time. Because when your success criteria is based on how much tasks you get done, then the problem with that is there's always going to be more tasks and there's always going to be more that you could do. So some days, if you don't complete all the tasks, even though you performed well and you got a lot of things done, you'll still feel like a failure and you still feel overwhelmed. And that doesn't build momentum. It doesn't make you look forward to actually working and getting work done. So what is the alternative? So instead of having a productivity mindset where we think about how can we get X amount of tasks in X amount of time, or asking yourself, how many tasks can I complete today? We want to ask ourselves the question of, can I perform for the next 2 hours? Now, this is a big difference because we're not going to be focusing on productivity. We're going to be focusing on performance. Because as a byproduct, when we focus on performance, we become more productive. When we focus on performance, that's when we enter flow state and when it's easier for us to get more work done. So this shift is very important because let's say if we were to take the productivity mindset and we focused on the number of tasks, us being ambitious business owners, or we want to get more work done, we're not going to set a target of 1 to 3 tasks. We're going to set a target of like 10 to 15 tasks. And you can imagine what that's going to do to you. You're going to spend time figuring out or calculating how can I get these tasks done, planning out your schedule. You're going to be stressing. It's going to be so difficult. You're going to have a lot of friction to get to work. Okay? You're going to likely procrastinate. That's what I experienced. And it's going to be stressful because you have this big weight over your shoulder that I must complete 10 to 15 tasks today or else I'm a failure. Now, on the other hand, if we have the expectation on ourselves where we say, can I perform for the next 2 hours? Can I simply sit down for 2 hours, focus undisturbed on one needle moving task? Can I do that? That's how we enter flow state. So this is flow state. And when you do this, that's when you are 500% more productive. Because they did a research paper, McKinsey did a research paper on this, and they said people who are in a flow state are 500% more productive. So the big mistake that most people do is they put this expectation on themselves of how many tasks can I complete today when that really destroys their productivity. So instead, we want to focus on performance first because performance is what leads to what you want, which is productivity. Let me show this in a visual so it's even clearer. So let's say this circle over here is your energy. When we focus on performance, what's going on is because we focus on one needle moving tasks, our progress is going to be significantly more. Because let's say this is 2 hours. We're going to make progress. And this is the one task that we're focusing on. So when we focus on performance, technically we are more productive. We are making more progress in our business. Now, on the other side of things, when we have a productive mindset, because we want to get so many tasks done, what's going to happen is we're going to have our energy going through all over these places. It's going to look like so. And you can see how much progress we make. We don't make that much progress. What's going to happen here, we're going to be multitasking, doing busy work, and just putting our energy all over the place where we don't actually make progress. So we're going to have even less motivation because we don't see progress. You're likely going to procrastinate, and it's going to increase the stress. And this is what I experienced previously when I didn't focus on performance. This one shift of shifting my perspective or my mindset from how many tasks can I complete today to can I perform for the next 2 hours and can I make sure that I perform on the highest value activity is what allowed me to eventually quit my 9 to 5. I would wake up at 6 a.m. I'd work all the way up to 8 a.m. undisturbed, 100% focused on a needle moving tasks. And that was enough for me to make enough money on my business to quit my 9 to 5 job and take it full time. So now I know that this perspective, this mindset shift would serve so many other business owners in terms of productive. Even though I don't like that word, I prefer performance because performance is what you want. You want progress. You want to make sure that you review your performance not on the tasks you completed. Because task completion, you could work on the wrong tasks and make completely zero progress, or you could work on the right task that will progress your business even further and completely change your life. Now, the next question you might be wondering is, how do we use this rule to focus on performance when we sit down on our desk, even though we might have a lot of tasks to get done? So here's where we use the 2-1-0 rule. It's pretty straightforward. So you start by setting a 2-hour timer. 2-hour timer. This could be on your phone or your computer or whatever productivity app you use. Once you set the 2-hour timer, you're going to identify one activity you're going to work on or one task. The one task is going to be the highest leverage or highest value activity. The thing that's going to move the needle the most in your business, you're going to pick that thing. And then you're going to work on that thing for 2 hours straight with zero distractions and zero multitasking. And what this is going to do is that this is going to get you into flow state. That is the goal here, is to get you into flow state and for you to focus on that one activity. Now, you're probably asking why 2 hours? Well, 2 hours is just about enough time to enter flow state and to maximize the benefits of flow state before you start losing concentration, which is right over here. Now, if you're familiar with the productivity space, maybe you watch Andrew Huberman, you probably heard of something called 90 minutes ultradian cycle. So you probably tried this before where you try to focus for around 90 minutes. We're still going to do that because our brain works in ultradian cycles. Every 90 minutes, it releases focus chemicals and allows you to actually focus and enter flow state. But the thing that most people miss is that it takes time to enter flow state or to get into the rhythm of things. So this is why there's a ramp up phase, which takes around 30 minutes to get there. So this is why I like 2 hours, because within 2 hours, I'm including the ramp up phase, which is 30 minutes, and we're also including the 90 minutes of the ultradian rhythm that allows you to maintain flow state. Because 90 minutes is just about how long your brain can maintain deep focus and where work feels enjoyable and you actually get work done. After around 2 hours is when you start experiencing diminishing returns and your focus degrades. Here's where you want to take a break. Then if you want to do another 2-hour block, you can do that again later on, a 2-hour focus block. Now the thing here, the most important thing is the highest leverage activity. We want to make sure we focus on one activity, not 2, not 3, not 4. You're going to pick one activity and you're going to work on that for 2 hours undisturbed, no multitasking. If you don't know what activity to select, you could simply ask what is the highest leverage activity that's on your list and just do that. Or you could ask this question: what's one thing I can do in my business such that by doing it, everything else would be easier or unnecessary? So you could try out using that question to identify what is your highest leverage activity. Now, 2 things are going to happen. I'm going to work for 2 hours undisturbed on this one activity, and I might complete that activity or that task before the 2 hours. What's going to happen is I'm just going to move on to the next task until my 2-hour timer is over. Now, if I work on a task and I'm not done in 2 hours, it's still a success because I focused for 2 hours and I performed. What I'm going to do is I'll take a break and then I'll get back to that task later on. So I'm not multitasking. I'm making sure I actually complete the leverage activity that I'm doing before I hop on to the next one. And this is what's going to allow you to get into flow state and actually get work done. Now, the next question you're probably going to ask is, how often should I do these 2-hour blocks and when should I do them? Well, you should do them as early as possible in your day, as early as possible before you get distracted, You know, if you start your day with checking your email, phone messages, you're gonna get so distracted, you're gonna have no time to actually focus. It's gonna be harder. You're gonna enter that noisy, busy work state. What we wanna do is we wanna make time for this every single day, 2 hours minimum. If you can do more before your day even starts if you have a busy day. Okay, now speaking about distractions, what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn this into a game. Every single time you get distracted, we're going to add 5 minutes to the timer, plus 5 minutes to the timer. And what this is going to do, this is going to create consequences. Because if you ever do check email, you get distracted, you check your phone, you're going to add 5 minutes to the timer. And that's going to create skin in the game. It's going to make you more motivated to work undistracted. And if you don't get distracted, you feel good. And if you get distracted, you add 5 minutes, it feels bad, but it also feels good because you made up for it. So that's why we can add 5 minutes to the timer. Now, when I follow the 2-1-0 rule, again, my goal isn't to set 3 tasks, 4 tasks, or 5 tasks, or have an expectations. I'm going to finish X amount of tasks. My expectation is, am I going to performance? So my criteria for productivity is how consistent is consistency with focus blocks. Because in one focus block, if you actually focus for 2 hours, you're likely going to get what someone else gets done in a week, who's multitasking and following the traditional productivity route. You're probably going to get more on that. So then if you're able to do this consistently, show up focus blocks every single day, that's going to solve your productivity issues. So you're going to have really good productivity. So it's going to take care of your productivity by default. So when you focus on performance, it naturally solves your productivity. So you won't have to worry about procrastination, overwhelm, stress. You don't need to worry about that because you just have a simple expectation on yourself. Can I just show up? Can I sit on my desk? Can I show up for 2 hours, focus undisturbed, work on one task, and not have an expectation where I must complete this task in the 2 hours? I'm just going to do my best to do my work in quality. Let me do quality work. Let me focus on what's needle moving, and let me just do that every single day consistently. And if you do that consistently, day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year, you're going to completely transform your life and business. getting stuff done is going to feel so effortless and enjoyable where you're going to be naturally productive, which is what our goal is over here. Now, if you'd like more on this, I have a 14-page free PDF guide called the 2-Hour Man's Playbook, where I share insights on how you could get more done in 2 hours than most people get done in a week in terms of working on their business. If you like that, check the link in the description and grab it.